everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to make stencils at home for pennies using a Cricut maker. So let's go ahead and get started. So there's really two things you're going to need. You're going to need a cutting machine. In this case, I'm using a Cricut maker, and you're going to need some clear craft plastic, and I'll include links below. The one I'm using is a 0.007 clear plastic. That's the thickness of it. So what I'm going to show you here is I'm just loading my Cricut machine, and then I'm going to show you as I maneuver through the Cricut Design Space. I'm looking for images that I already have. You can purchase them. So I kind of do this quick filter to see what I have in my images. And I think it's important. I do a quick filter on like borders and backgrounds. It's important to find something that's going to work for creating stencils. And I'm going to do a part 2 to this video that's going to show you how to use stencils. There's many ways, but one of the ways I like to use them for is foiling. And again, I'll have a video next week on that. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe and click the alert so you'll know when that comes out. But in here, I've got a couple. One I've used before. I was kind of playing around to see if there was anything new that I might be able to use. And what I wind up going to are 2 examples I'll show you. And then I wind up making cards out of them in the video that's coming next week. So there's a couple things that I learned. One is you want something with some cool design and that it's big enough that when you're putting it on a card, you can really see it no matter what you're using the stencil for. You may be using it for oxide inks to stamp through it and create a background that way, and that's cool. So this one I decided is a pretty good design, and I'm making this as close as I can get to a 6 by 6 inch, and that way it fits over my typical cards, which are 5 by 4.25. So that's what I'm doing here. And then I was removing extra layers to make sure I'm only cutting one. This is a multi-dimensional cut, so you could do this where it was shadowing, but I'm looking just to make a stencil. So in this case, I just need 1 layer. And I'm actually going to wind up removing this image on the top. I have that there because I thought this would be a cool design, and it still could be. It's meant to be a card, so it's going to come out the front of a card, right? And I'm like, okay, I don't know if that's going to work for the stencil right now, so let's just stick to what we got here. And so that's what I wound up doing. I wound up moving this to the center and focus. And again, I've made this a almost 6 by 6 inch stencil. And once I get it all lined up, I'm going to go ahead and click up in the top corner, make it. And this is going to show me what it's going to look like on my mat. So keep in mind, this cardstock or the clear plastic is a 12 by 12. If you had something that was smaller, I think some of them I've seen come in like 8.5 by 10 sheets or 8.5 by 11 sheets, then you want to change the sizing of that. And when I hit OK, I was happy with it. It's going to ask me to select the material. So this is going to be important in determining how to cut and the depth of it. So when I do this, I am actually cutting with a deep point blade for the Cricut. And I actually wind up using, which doesn't show on the screen here, but I wind up having to do a couple of different cuts because this paper is thicker. It really needed more pressure. So I wind up going in finally and cutting this paper at magnet sheets 0.5 millimeters with more pressure. And I will say this takes a little bit longer, and so I'm not going to have you sit here and watch that whole thing, but just know this design took about 8 minutes or so to cut. So it's a good opportunity to walk away and go get yourself a cup of coffee. That's what I did. So I decided to go back in and try a new image that I hadn't tried before. I'm following the same process. I went in and selected one that I had in my library of images, and I'm removing the multi layers and getting down to the one that needs to be cut. I again tend to choose the thickest one where it has a good amount of negative space, so the open space, but not too much. So this is what I go with here, and then I will show you again. I will line it up. I'm going to use my deep point blade to cut it. When I was in the beginning, I showed you two different plastic sheets. The second one I was holding, I should mention, which I like a little bit better, was actually more of a frosted color versus the other one was very clear. And the reason I like the frosted one, and you'll see this at the end, is that it shows up better. It's just a little bit easier for me to see compared to the clear. Now, they don't work any differently from a functionality point, but as far as being able to see it, I like the one with the frost a little bit better. That's just my preference. So again, I've gone in and I've selected the appropriate paper and the pressure to cut. And so this is getting ready to cut. Again, it takes probably around 8 minutes to cut through. And in the end, I'll show you what this looks like. So you can see some of this moved off the mat really easy. And as I peel it off, some of it I've got to poke out just manually and do that. It takes a couple of minutes to push out the plastic in the negative space. So I go ahead and do that, and this is ultimately what the stencil looks like. And as I'm preparing it for what I'm going to do to make cards. So stay tuned for that video. Again, it should be out next week. So if you're interested in that, remember to hit subscribe with the alert so you'll be notified when new content comes up. And if you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Here's a preview of what I'm going to do with the cards. Thanks for joining today. Have a great day.